Hello friends, Steph here, and I decided that today's video is going to be all about Endgame, with the buzz of the new trailer and the fact that the movie comes out in a month? What? I thought it would be fun to round up some of my favorite comic books and some comics that I think can prepare you for Endgame or teach you a little bit more about the world of Endgame. So if you're one of those people who just wants to speculate what's going to happen, come up with a theory, read up on all the comics that have to do with Endgame, or maybe you just really want to impress your friends and be like, actually, it happened like this in the comics. Either way, this video is for you. This list will not only have comics about what we already know, but also about some theories. Like there are some rumors that Galactus might be coming in after the credits. There are also some theories of the Silver Surfer making an appearance because Marvel just bought Fox. Also the whole Secret Invasion Skrulls thing that's been happening since Captain Marvel. And also we're going to be introduced to Ronin, who is the mantle that Hawkeye is now taking upon himself. But I'll get to those comics later. Right now, it's time to talk about the big one, the number one, the must-read, Infinity Gauntlet. And the story is really interesting because it actually begins with the snap. So the entirety of Infinity War was leading up to this big climactic comic book moment that begins at Infinity Gauntlet. The story is similar. Thanos wants to destroy half the population, but his motives are a little bit different. He is actually doing it to win the affections of Death, who he's in love with. Personally, I think his motive is actually better in the movie than it is in the comics. But we don't need to get into that right now. So Infinity Gauntlet is basically what we can expect to see in Endgame, because it's the aftermath of the snap. It's the heroes that are left trying to figure out what the fuck to do, and it's super fun. Number 2, Infinity Gauntlet Aftermath. This is the story of the aftermath. Thanos has been defeated, and now they're trying to figure out what to do. Adam Warlock has the Infinity Gauntlet now, which is a lot of power for one person to have. It's kind of a problem. Silver Surfer meets up with the Collector, and is also trying to destroy Thanos' shrine to Death. Obviously that won't happen in the movie, but there are definitely some things in there that we could see. It's kind of like the cleanup crew story. Number 3, Thanos War. This is sort of a collection of comics, but this is the first time we see Thanos, the very first time we meet him ever. It was in 1973. Jim Starlin created Thanos, wrote pretty much all of the great Thanos stories. And this story is where Captain Marvel is trying to thwart Thanos' plan to control the universe with the Cosmic Cube. The very first one is Iron Man 55. That's the first time we ever see Thanos. Silver Surfer, the rebirth of Thanos. This is sort of the quest that leads to Infinity Gauntlet. It begins here. Thanos is back from the dead, and he wants to destroy half the universe. This also contains Thanos' origin story and sort of explains his obsession with the Infinity Gauntlet and why he's going after it. Infinity War! Not to be confused with Infinity War, the movie. Completely different things. So the timeline of these stories is like Infinity War movie, Infinity Gauntlet comic, Infinity War comic. It's like way after the snap. The snap has happened, they have solved the snap, they have defeated Thanos, and now there's a whole new problem happening where there are these evil doppelgangers that have infiltrated Earth. There's like this all-out war, and it turns out that Thanos and his Infinity Gauntlet may be their only hope. Plot twist. It'd be interesting to see if this plays a role in Endgame at all, where like something happens and they have to almost ally with Thanos a little bit. Not sure if that will happen here, or maybe it could happen in the future, or maybe they'll just kill Thanos. I don't know. But it could be really interesting. This is also a very heavy Adam Warlock story, and I know there have been like small, tiny teases of Adam Warlock. I don't know if we'll see him in this movie, but maybe in the end credits, or he'll be mentioned or something. He plays such a vital role in all of the Infinity-related comics that it's surprising to me that he hasn't appeared in any way, except for in one end credits scene in Guardians of the Galaxy 2. So we'll see. Thanos Rising. I love Thanos Rising so much. This is one of my favorites. It's such a good story. This is more of an origin story, all about Thanos. 100% about Thanos. It's really not about anyone else. But it's all about Thanos Rising. It's his origin story, it's his birth story, it's his childhood, and you just kind of get into his head and see how he becomes this evil mad titan. And it's really just like this tragic backstory where you almost feel for Thanos and you just, like, you get it. You're like, oh, I see why you are the way that you are. And I love stories where you get into the head of the villain and you see why they are the villain. I love stories like that. So if you're into that, and if you're as obsessed with Thanos as I am, you definitely have to read Thanos Rising. Next on my list is Infinity. This is a biggin. It is heavy. Infinity is another Thanos-centric story. I mean, his face is on the cover, so you could have guessed that. This one isn't really about the Infinity Gems, the Infinity Stones, but it does highlight Thanos' madness and once again kind of illustrates why he is the way he is, and also what he's capable of, what lengths he will go to. I feel like there could definitely be elements from this story in Endgame because we see Captain America and Captain Marvel fighting together. We see Shuri in Wakanda as the Queen. She's wearing the Black Panther outfit. And the defeat of Thanos is also in this book. So there is a lot of stuff in here that could definitely play a part in Endgame in some capacity. Thanos Volume 1, 2, and 3. This is another Thanos-centric series. As you can tell, I have a lot of those in this video. I just think they're really good and he's such an interesting character, and if you want to understand him, you should totally read all of these. If you don't want to like dive super deep, I would recommend reading Volume 2 of these three, The God Quarry. Volume 1 is where Thanos is back and he's just full of vengeance. He's ready to go. Volume 2 is where he is defeated. He's powerless and alone and vulnerable, and a threat emerges that's even worse than he is, if that were possible. And everyone has to turn to Thanos and depend on him to save them, which is quite a twist. He also goes to the God Quarry, which is a place where no one has ever gone and returned. And there's also a whole story about him and his son, Thane, who I don't think will play a role in the movies. I mean, maybe he'll be mentioned at the end or something, but I don't think he's gonna be in this universe. But they have a really earth-shattering battle in this story. And it just really digs deep into the lengths that Thanos will go. Volume 3 is also a really fun read because Thanos wins. It's called Thanos Wins, and it's where Thanos wins! It's like everyone's worst nightmare. Can't believe it. It's like, oh my god, the villain won. That never happens. But he's still unhappy. Thanos wins and he's still not satisfied. That could definitely play a role in Endgame. We see at the end of Infinity War where he's Farmer Thanos and he smiles, but you can tell that it's taken a lot. Like, he's sacrificed a lot to make this happen, so I'm curious to see if in Endgame he is really happy with what he did or if he's feeling a little bit remorseful. He's such a complex character and I love him. Next we have Marvel Superheroes Secret Wars. This is the 1984 one by Jim Shooter, and it was like the first mega crossover of its kind. Like, this was a huge event. It still stands as a milestone in the comic book industry. Must read for any fan. I don't really think it's gonna play a role in Endgame. I mean, they could take some elements out of it, but this is more something that I could see being in the future phases of the MCU. Maybe it could be teased at the end of Endgame in the end credits scene. But this is where all of Marvel's heroes are on Battle World and there's a big battle happening. It's also the first time Spider-Man wears the black suit, which is the symbiote that becomes Venom. First time we see that. It's very good. And then we also have the 2016 Secret Wars. Not to be confused with the 1984 Secret Wars. And this one, the Marvel Universe is no more! All of the alternate universes have been eliminated and all that remains is this planet that is like a weird fragment of all of the remaining dimensions, known as Battle World, and Doctor Doom is the leader of this planet. Once again, just great. Could definitely be something in the future of the MCU, for sure. Secret Invasion! This is something that people have been talking about forever, that is totally gonna happen, and we even saw it sort of teased in Captain Marvel, although it was a bit retconned. But Secret Invasion is all about the Skrulls. The Skrulls invading Earth. They're replacing many of Marvel's heroes with imposters and setting the stage for an all-out invasion. I'm curious to see how this plays out in the future, if it does it all. I'm pretty sure it's going to. A lot of people have been talking about this happening, but Captain Marvel did kind of confuse things a bit because now the Skrulls, I'm not going to spoil anything if you haven't seen Captain Marvel yet because I know it just came out, but there is something that happens in that movie that makes this a little bit questionable. Or at least complicates things. I'm sure it can still happen, but I'm not sure how. There's also Secret Invasion Rise of the Skrulls, which is a collection of comics that's also about this storyline, if you want to get even deeper in it, and they're all right here. I'm not going to read them all to you because that's a lot. Annihilation, book 1, 2, and 3. A lot of people speculated that Endgame was going to be called Annihilation. That was like one of the theories that it could be. Since it wasn't, it's still very possible that this story could be something in the Marvel Cinematic Universe at some point. So if you want to be prepared for it, I would definitely read this. It's another big epic crossover that brings together a bunch of Marvel heroes in one event. It's sort of a space opera with a blurred line between heroes and villains, which is always super fun. And I could definitely see some elements from this being in Endgame or in future Marvel movies. The New Avengers Volume 3. I would recommend reading this comic if you are interested in Ronan. You want to learn about Ronan and who he is, and be prepared for that before you see the movie. Because in the trailers, it's been very obviously teased that Hawkeye becomes Ronan. He takes up this new mantle. And the theory is that his entire family was wiped out in the snap, and he just goes into instant revenge mode and gets a mohawk, apparently, and he is now Ronan, and he is ready to destroy. Which is basically the same story of Ronan in the comic, where he's lost his family and he just goes berserk and really, really badass. It's a very sad, heartwarming, invigorating revenge story. There are some older comics about Ronan, but I think this is a good place to start if you don't want to do like a big deep dive into Ronan, you just want to like kind of just know who he is. I would read this. Captain America Reborn. This comic explores Captain America's identity and who he is, and it sort of explores this Cap who has been beaten down. He's sort of coming back to be Captain America once more, like a rebirth. Since this is kind of where Cap is in the movies, I could definitely see this, like something from this comic, having a role within Endgame, where he's like reborn. He's like, yes, I am Captain America. We could also see some sort of mantle passing in Endgame, where Steve Rogers passes the mantle to Bucky or to Falcon, because I don't know if Chris Evans is gonna stick around after this. I don't know if he's continuing to be Cap or if he's gonna retire or die. We don't know. This comic also features a pretty epic battle between Cap and Red Skull, and we now know that Red Skull is hiding out on Vormir, so I could 100% see that. Maybe not being in this one since there is so much going on, but maybe if the mantle is passed, the new Cap will fight Red Skull, or Chris Evans' Cap will stick around and he'll fight Red Skull at some point, or something. It's possible. And last, The New Avengers Illuminati Volume 2. This comic just sort of explores the idea of, what do we do with the stones? Because I'm assuming at the end of Endgame, they defeat Thanos and they have the stones. Like, they take them back. They take the gauntlet, they take all the stones. What do they do with them? In the comics, they try and destroy them, and they can't be destroyed. So instead, Mr. Fantastic assembles this group called the Illuminati, which is just a bunch of heroes, and he gives each of them a stone and tells them all to protect it so that they're separated because they cannot exist together. They're just too powerful. So this could possibly be their solution at the end of Endgame. They could create some sort of group or just give all of the remaining Avengers a stone and trust them with it or something. Who knows? Just a theory. So in summation, the TLDR of this video, Infinity Gauntlet and Infinity War. Important. Read those first, before anything. That's it. That's what you need. Infinity, Thanos Rising, The God Quarry, Thanos War. Read those if you love Thanos. If you want to get inside his head, if you want to know more about this character, read those comics. Secret Invasion if you want to know more about the Skrulls and the story of the Skrulls. Read Annihilation if you want to be prepared for possible fan theories in the future. Read New Avengers Volume 3 if you want to learn more about Ronan. And everything else just to learn more about this world, about these characters, about this story, and experience some really big, definitive comic book moments. So, that's it. That is my list of comic books that you should read before Avengers Endgame. I'm sure there are a lot more. There are so many comic books in the world, I cannot possibly read them all. So if you think of anything that people should read to prepare for Endgame, let me know in the comments below what that is. Or let me know which comic of the ones that I listed you think is the best or the most important. Or tell me a theory that you have for Endgame. Because right now, I just don't know, and I'm scared. So that's it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Steph Koza. Be sure to like this video if you liked it. Smash that like button. Smash that subscribe button. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Thanks for watching. Bye!